Hey guys, welcome to Sunday Live Chat. Today in a different room in Subconscious. Today a room known as, I guess you might want to call it the rehearsal room. Anyways, it's a room where I get to set up my stuff and that type of thing. And happy Sunday to you guys. Hi, Joan, Ambionica, Brian, Jessica, Oscar Ramirez, Scully. Scully, get off those cookies, man. You know, the cookies are the, we know what you're talking about there. But anyways, welcome to Sunday Live Chat. Hi, Cora. Yeah, it's been an adjustment getting back. Dre came over. When was it, Dre? A couple days ago, you there? And we went through the motions and setting up the rig. And the rig is in fact set up again. And here with me now, I should just introduce the rig. Just no more messing about. Everyone's met the rig on tour, but here it is in person, folks. Yay! Now in the safety confines of my home here, where I can sit and work on things and do development or any sort of sound design or anything like that. So it's kind of cool. I can play everything. That's the lovely SY1 Syncussion. As you know, BRAP was formulated after its sibling. It is contained down here. Maybe you can see behind me. Oh, this side. Yes, this is this thing. And live, this would be the thing that would make your gut shake a little if it did. And this was the BRAP, which I had just sort of like doing this cool type of white noise, sort of whatever you might want to call that. It was very percussive in the sense of what it could add to songs like Warlock or other songs that needed impacts and sounds like that. And it was a blast to have the two traveling in the, God, it's hard to get this backwards world. Okay, yeah, in the drawer next to me here. And there were one set of the goodies that I have here. I guess you guys can't see beyond here too well, but right here I have an SP404. Very good letters, I might add, the SP. I could do a variety of sound effects such as that, or a lot of, I could do, go into screams. Or... some people have argued. Just the thing you need when you play a live show, especially with Skinny Puppy. Also, I can play the drums. Large clapping noises. No doubt you hear this in all over the place, and all certain types of classic type of impact sounds. Right now it has the PCM41 delay on it. That is up here at the top part of my rack, and the classic effects unit utilized on almost every Skinny Puppy song ever made, and continues to do so. And the SP404 also is great for if I want to do a recording of, say, my organ at home, which I utilize at the set beginning each night. You may recognize it as the intro. And with that, I could add the live radio. It's not tuned into anything right now. I could stand up and tune it into something, but you get the drift there. And all very handily controlled by the triggers of the SP404, which I can briefly probably show you this here so that you don't have to be left guessing. is what it is. You can say box like so. Each pad has a yes, a very fun device. Next to it is the chaos pad. Actually, it's not the chaos pad, it is the chaos synthesizer. So essentially, it has the ability to just kind of like act like a synthesizer. It's really, you know, it is as much fun as it looks. The only problem with it is that, you know, I'd constantly hit it into record, and then some sequence would get recorded, and then I'd look over and it would be playing something. And so in the heat of the moment, you kind of have to watch out, you know, what you're doing. But sort of like all in my right hand, I have the ability to play drums, sort of like how I used to have a drum kit, but before it was metal and stand-up drums and all the rest of this. Let me just check something here. It was, yeah. Anyways, it was basically, as you remember, it had a bunch of drums here, like stand-up drums, percussion, metal barrels, and stuff like that. Now I can essentially accomplish hopefully most of those goals within the framework of these synthesizers here. So here you've got the one synthesizer, here you've got the brat, here you've got another synthesizer, and here you've got another one. This on top of what I will call the wondrous Hydrasynth. Everyone's asking me, are you doing an endorsement for a Hydrasynth? And it's like, well, at this point, I know that I've referred a number of people that have gone and purchased one as a result. So I would say that for the money and for, you know, if you're looking around at synthesizers and always wondering which one to get, like, you know, the Hydrasynth definitely for the bang for the buck, and also polyphonic aftertouch is beautiful. And if you don't know what polyphonic aftertouch is, it's basically if you touch the key and then harder, and my secret weapon down there, of course, the Chase Bliss 1978 best reverb I've probably heard in a long time. Will go forever. I love it. It gives it that classic sort of otherworldly sound. Not to say that this doesn't have a very nice reverb in it, which it does, reverbs, delays, and all the rest of it. But something about the CXM is like over and above like expectations. You know, lots of people ask me about my live rig, so hopefully this will help you guys to see it. Let me see if I can put the camera back here and return to some sense of normalcy. So up here, people are asking, how do I trigger my VSTs? So my VSTs are behind me on the computer. Maybe if I step this way, you can see this computer here has Logic, and basically all it is being used for is the host for several VSTs. Most of them are EX24, Reactor, as well as Omnisphere. And so what I tend to do is mix the sound of my vSynth with the sound of the virtual synth. So This is just the virtual synths. If I mix in the V-synth, all different variations. It's sort of like mixing organ sounds, string sounds, building big string sounds. Most of the strings that you heard in the gig were coming from this combo of things. And then, of course, the bass. And this is the lovely it's not the best monitoring situation in here, in the sense that I just have it hooked up to a little Bluetooth speaker, which actually is amazing that it works as well as it does, because I can play you the things I was just playing you. And yeah, it was you know, Dre was saying the other day, and I agree with him, that it's a complex setup, but at the same time, we've made it so that it's quite easy to set up. It's kind of like designed to travel and designed to be set up each day. And we've got it, I think, finally nailed after 40 years of traveling, as to like how to finally pack it all and have it all convenient, have it all like there at our, you know, access points. Half the things before is that you know, you get on a tour, and then you're on a tour for 3 weeks or a month, and then by the end you basically have perfected your system, and then it's time to stop the tour. So this is a thing that we find over and over and over. It's quite funny that the team gets so darn good that by the end, you know, we're ready to do 1 million shows, but yet we have to pack it up. So, well, that's kind of normal. It happens every tour, but that's just the way it goes. But you'd be surprised how well this stuff packs up. The only trouble that Dre and I have each time is that this case here, I'm going to guesstimate, Dre, how much do you think this weighs? Like 400, 500 pounds? Well, so basically it requires 4 people to lift it. And it's one of those things that if you don't have those people on it, then basically good luck. Yeah, 400 pounds. I think, Scully, when you were with us, it was even heavier, and possibly even more cumbersome, because there was more stuff in the rack, including the sort of like, we've split up what's known as the monitor system with this setup. So it used to be this setup and a monitor system in one rack. And I've seen Scully on the last tour that you did labor with people getting this rack in and out. It was just laborious. So my apologies for that, Scully. He's Scott on the side there, ladies and gentlemen. And Data Bomb is my current zombie Dre tech, and he is there. What did you say? Tree Fitty. Dre, I found that if we had any trouble with the setup, it was usually just in the weight, in the general weight of things that were required to get going. So to set this beast up every night, you had, it's funny, this riser, I bought this riser in, I think, 1996, when things were cheap. And that riser's still going. And the reason we carry it is because it's 10 by 10. And so now you don't often find a 10 by 10 riser. You'll always find 8 by 8. We can fit on an 8 by 8 and will, but this old riser here has seen us through, I'm going to say, every show since, Eyes of Stanley Payne tour. was the first one with the Drumosaurus. It went to Dresden, Germany for Doomsday. It toured every Skinny Puppy thing until we stopped carrying it a couple of tours ago, and then everything came back out for this tour. So the stand, as you see in the front there, had been in a storage here for, I guess, quite a number of tours. It may have gone out in 2014 or 13, but it was great to see it all come back. And what I mean by all is that I also hadn't been traveling with my monitor system that we also traveled with again this tour, the custom monitor system that had been built again around the time in 1996, Eyes of Stanley Payne tour for Drumosaurus. And so essentially, I think I said earlier that there are components of this rig that go back to the first Skinny Puppy tour. Maybe some of you saw posted on YouTube the Love Affair show for 1985. I believe that was our second show. It was actually our first official show ever. But this stand here holding the radio, which is also still currently behind me, and there's one other one in the garage. It's from that original setup, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. That's nearly 40 years ago. And the stand and everything, it's lighter than it looks. It's way more easier to set up than it looks. And maybe I've said this earlier, it was built by the Nirvana baby's father. That's right. Nirvana baby, who's been getting in a lot of headlines lately about trying to sue Nirvana and stuff. Oddly, he's also on the cover of the Dragon Experience because Bree, my former girlfriend, was the babysitter of Spencer for a long time, and we basically saw him grow up. So Rick was basically his father and basically opted to build the rig based upon, oddly enough, I should pull up this thing, but so I made a cardboard version of it, what I thought it should be. And so I thought, like, well, I better do this to scale just in case this becomes important. And so I built this kind of like idea to scale in a miniature form, 1 inch to 1 foot. And then when I went to go see it for the first time, Rick had built it exactly to the dimensions of the cardboard. So I couldn't believe it. And it turned out to be something that has been fun. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but we collect mementos over the course of the tour. If you guys gave us something, then basically we kept it in there. And so it's been collecting mementos for quite some time, quite a number of years, actually. The DRG pieces on the front, I believe, were given to us by somebody at around 2004 or 5, right at the beginning of the tour. Reformation tour, yeah. Some classic moments with Ogre. I didn't get a chance to fully see what he was going to do again before the tour. But again, mind-boggling to witness, and then also sort of become involved with segments where it was called upon to make some sounds for the impacts that Dustin was doing when he was hitting Ogre. Of course, these were probably much louder in the event, but nevertheless, it was really cool to witness that because you guys probably saw it like they were behind a screen, and there was some tricks as to how that was happening because Dustin, the Dr. Doom, as we called him, Dustin was basically just wailing on him with a bamboo set of sticks, kendo sticks. And I don't think I should give away the trick on that. I'll let those guys, if they want to basically chime in someday about how it was happening. But it was sometimes the trick would go a bit wrong. And I think a couple of times Dustin nailed Ogre right in the back of the head. And luckily he had that protection on from the mask. And I think that provided some level of protection. But Ogre went through a great deal of what I will say the worst part of suffering on the tour. It seemed it all came down upon him. He got sick really bad. The only person on the tour, really, I think, that got sick substantially. And then also injuries. he lost 4 teeth on I believe it was the Minneapolis show, uh, after a rough day of travel at that. And that's pretty shocking to think about, if you were to lose like your bottom 4 teeth and then just be able to continue with the idea of the tour. I know he was feeling quite um, challenged at that point, and so big up to Ogre for the continuation of the journey and making it to I'm going to say a grand conclusion, because we ended in such a way that I don't think we've ever ended a tour so delightfully. And I will say, over the course of this tour, I don't think everybody got along better than ever. I don't know if it's because it's the last final tour type concept or not, but basically it basically provided the ability to put on a show that I think was above and beyond, because everybody was at their highest point of reaching this, I'll say, grown-up state, and thus bringing a level of everybody bringing their full game and full level of professionalism on every level from everybody to the show, and the cumulative effort made from what I think is one of the most enjoyable tours. Again, I keep saying, these photos that I've seen come up by Spooky are fantastic. Black and whites, I've seen many different variations. You can see the DRG logo I was just talking about here on the front there. These little pieces on Skinny Puppy logos were provided to us by the guy who showed up in Seattle, F-Frame, and basically had a flaming car awaiting our arrival there. It was quite memorable. Thank you for that. Quite a great concept in the sense of being able to carry out with these guys the idea that I think each time before the tour we're struggling, not struggling, but we're conceiving and wondering what it will all bring when we come together. And then the culminative, I believe, was over and above what I had hoped for, at least. Well, actually, I had hoped for it, but I think it surpassed that. This was obviously performing God's Gift Maggot, where Dre has the lovely maggot shakers. Yeah, some amazing photos. It's been a thrill. I mean, I have to say, playing for you all. And I can say that there has now been a pretty firm plan about future shows. And I'm sure that you all are very excited to possibly hear about that. So I don't want to give it up or give it out or whatever, but I will say that there looks to be definitely the makeup show in Pittsburgh is going to happen. So Pittsburghians, you will, by the looks of it, have a show. And I will say that there is plans now in 5 other cities. I think that most of you can guess what cities those might be, but actually I don't think that it's possible to maybe guess one of them. At this point, there is kind of a plan to see how interesting the shows are to people, in the sense of putting it up and seeing what the demand will be, and then depending on that will determine the number of shows that we would be doing. But those will be announced soon, and I can tell you that it will be in the fall. So further dates coming, and grand ones at that, I can say. I don't have any more information about details pertaining to venues or anything that I can release at this point. That will come soon. You can be assured, though, that we're going to be playing LA. You can be assured that we're going to be playing San Francisco, and I think you can be assured that we're going to be playing Chicago. So add that upon Philly, and I've practically spilled the beans there on almost all of them. There's a couple more I haven't named. So it'll be interesting to see you all again. And now this is where we get into the discussion of, what would you change about the tour, if anything? What would you do? I'm Oh, it's great. Scully's coming to Chicago. I've heard, Scully, you are going to take the train because you are obsessed with trains. And that is one thing to get excited about is if you have the time to pre-plan and do stuff like that, this is the time to do that crazy type of stuff. Uh, yeah. So Scully, I'll let you do that though. I'm not, Scully, once Scully and I and our girlfriends basically took a train once from Prague overnight to Amsterdam. And I think that we thought that it was a shorter journey than it was. And I'll always remember that night as being the most insane night of sleep I've ever heard in my life. The sounds were like, it was kind of like I've never slept on a train before, and especially a train of that kind, where you hear every track and every station and it was kind of cool. At the same time, it was kind of frightening. But Scully, I'll let you do the train thing. But yeah, we'll announce more of these details soon. And as you can see, in the meantime, there was some leftover merchandise, and that has now been stocked in the store. So if you missed out on some of the merch, the remaining stock has been moved to the store. And I believe the concept is they're going to sell that stuff until it is exhausted, and then they will discuss the idea of restocking or stuff like that. I'm not absolutely sure on that. I do know that probably there will be new stuff developed for the fall dates, and so expect that. I can imagine new merch and obviously new dates involved with that merch. It's still part of this tour, but I'm sure we'll approach that as we get there. But the merch, I've received an endless amount of questions about it. So I hope I have provided some of the answers on that. I know that Simon and Axel, who both showed up at various points of the tour, thank you for that. It was great to of course, Simon, I know you well, but Axel, I've never met up with you. And so to see and meet you was great. Axel came in from Sweden. And one thing I was really impressed with was the hoodie is really cool. And one thing I wish is that it was zippable. So maybe there'll be a zippered variation coming up. And I want to say that I like the leggings. They were shinier than I had thought. So I have requested that they could possibly be in the not shiny material. Perhaps some of you like the shiny material. I don't know. Of course, constant requests for more hats. I'm sure there's going to be more of those to come, possibly a new variation on that. By the way, big up to you, Patreon people. Because we've been away, huge batch of support on people on the gift levels. These went out. The 60 patch was made almost like Star Trek. So if you're wondering why does that look like that? It's almost like this futuristic spaceship concept. I don't know why they made it in a different. Well, I do know why. They suggested that we not do typical embroidery and make this one with this concept of it's a wool patch. So it's pretty cool in the 60. Those of you that have been with me for 5 years, and believe it or not, there is a large number of you just got this the other day. I was pretty ecstatic about being able to catch up on that. Speaking of catching up, I mean, this whole return back home has been about catching up. We've never had more stuff to do. Of course, everybody would be that way if you leave somewhere for 5 weeks and spend it living on a bus. Yeah, the hardest part about living on a bus is like when you reach the month mark and you've still got some time, and then it's like you think about, in the old days when you'd have to go pay your landlord after a month. You think like, I'm here for a month, damn. And it's a pretty surreal concept. But I will say that, again, with this crew, it made it just delightful. So let's talk about the set. The set came together as a result of discussions that were originally suggested by Justin. And what I like about Justin's suggestion is that he, as the drummer, has been with us for 20 years and has sort of like an insight into what he thought were, I think, the most playable or the most exciting songs to play. So we came up with this arrangement that was somewhat modified with a couple of things. And I believe VX Gas Attack was not the intro, and we all suggested that that was going to be, especially in this day and age, a very important song to kind of like introduce this time with. These times are weird, it's fucked up, they're always fucked up, they're getting worse. And in some ways, VX Gas Attack kind of addresses that. And it's a great song for us to also, I will say, warm up to. It's not the hardest song in the set to play, but certainly was a gas. Immortal, from Greater Wrong and the Right. This was always a song I don't believe we played in a long time, but I remember that Justin reminded me that we had a gas playing it. And after playing it and getting used to it and doing it a few times, it's one of those songs that, yeah, it is a gas. And I don't know if it's more fun for us in the band or for you guys, but it seems to just frame up the whole sort of feeling about just sort of like building an emotional sort of platform at that point with the strings, with the being able to build that section at the end before Rodent. Rodent was always something that I thought like, this is either going to work or it doesn't work. I know a lot, I have some people say to me, I, I love that song, but in the set, I don't love it. So I won't go on record and say who that is, but basically it is a more unusual song to play because it stays at one level. But we tried to sort of like kind of build it into a point where I was thinking about it with Matthew, where it was like kind of thinking about it in the sense of trying to work with that with, I say, a David Byrne approach. I don't know if you guys know what I mean by that. It's kind of like a life in the Bush of Ghosts type of approach to that. So it's sort of if that was apparent, then that was our goal between Matthew and I on that song. And it's it's a difficult song to sort of like say this song in the sense of another song, say for instance like Immortal or VX Gas Attack has defined sections. And those sections are really nice to build up with dynamics. Whereas Rodent, it does have a big section in the middle, but it's very short. The rest of the song is kind of like jamming around the elements. So basically, between that and the song Wernin, I found it to be, especially, Wernin is the only song from The Weapon. That, by the way, I've heard today is the 10-year anniversary of the release of The Weapon. So big up, yay. Big up Weapon. Wernin was a song that I thought like needed some extra bits. I don't know why, but there will be a concept when we get to playing live where there were elements that I had to work into, I find, to build up that song a bit more. So I essentially there's a few songs in the set where I added MIDI to help me play. So for instance, when I have to play some two-handed parts or when I'm playing the VSynth and the Hydra at the same time, I wanted to be able to still take care of some of the bass parts that we're playing on the sub 37 there. And so this made it a lot more fun for me in that sense and could flesh it out. But then it also encouraged me to want to, as Dre calls it, add the new Ultravox orchestral maneuvers line, which only appears in the live version of Wernin. So in the end, I was kind of like thinking, I think Rihanna said to me, wow, at the beginning, I wasn't excited about that song. And in the end, the melodic structure made it one of my most favorite songs in the set. So there was some nice, beautiful edge to that song that I thought really was nice live. And if it worked for you, then let me know. It's never apparent what songs work uh, when, like, okay, we're on our in ears when we're playing, and then also we're basically monitoring sounds and stuff like that. A lot of songs, I can't hear anything about like the audience reaction or anything. So if there's cheering or anything like that, unless it was really loud, I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear you. So sometimes I thought like, okay, well, I hope that worked. And it was kind of funny that Wernin was one of those challenges. From Wernin into Tormentor. Tormentor was a song that Matthew and I basically knew that unless we nail this song, it's not going to work. And between him and I, there was quite I'll say, a series of challenges because of how many notes there are in that song. I mean, the bass line has to be played, right? I mean, there's no way that I wasn't not going to have the enjoyment of playing the bass line. By the way, this was my tour drink. Before I start to choke here, I will say that for me, and I know this is changing subject here, but I'll get back to Tormentor in a second. On tour, I found that there's a lot of people that will take vitamins, or a lot of people that will take those 1,000 milligram bags of the orange powder. For me, the cure or the solution, and where's wood around here? I should touch wood. Okay. In the solution to not getting sick is to cut up one full lemon, squeeze it out, cut up one full lime, squeeze it out, cut up a massive chunk of ginger, dice it up, mash it all down into a glass, add ice and fresh filtered water, and drink several cups of this. I'd suggest 3 or 4 a day. And it is highly beneficial, I'm sure, to many, many things. There's a lot of things that I will say. I don't know about you guys, but of course, when we go on the road, there's a certain level of exertion, and there's a certain level of like working out every day and stuff like that. But overall, I lost 12 pounds, but since the beginning, I think I lost 20 something pounds, which I needed to lose. I was becoming complete COVID man. So I was very happy about that. And now I'm actually back down below what I wanted to get on my ideal weight. I started thinking what maybe it wasn't just the sweating and the day activity, but also the consumption of that. So I'm going to continue with my consumption of that, and I will keep you posted on that. But I will suggest that that is called the recipe for all goodness. And I'm sure some people will chime in here and say how good drinking that every day is. But Tormentor, back to Tormentor. There are some songs that when we first come up with the set idea, I know that it's going to be a challenge to say, okay, Tormentor's in the set. Okay, I know I'm going to have to learn every element of that song. And there are some very strange little sections where it goes down to, well, for instance, it goes to a D when the song is generally in G. But the thing is that it does some extremely unique little things. And luckily, because I wrote the song, I know that I call them Kevinisms. Dwayne used to tell me never unlearn those type of changes because they're odd, but they work. So in Tormentor, I had to sit with Matthew and teach him about what goes up and what goes down and then what goes sideways in the song, because that's kind of like how it works. And when we finally will nail it, I think it was by the third show, Matthew came backstage screaming at me, exhilarated, that we had nailed Tormentor. And I thought, oh yeah, that's what you get when you get that feeling. And it was exciting. At the beginning of the tour, we were playing Love in Vain. I love Love in Vain. I mean, of course, I suggested that Love in Vain should be in the set from Last Rites. It's one of my favorite songs from the album, and I thought that it sounded huge live. I could always see from the people's faces that there was a reaction that I could see from it at that point, and it was really making me happy. And so we played um, Love in Vain up until I believe it was, someone correct me here. I know one of you guys out there know probably which show it was, but Ogre was having some problem because of how after he was sick. So he was probably having troubles hearing the cues and hearing like where we were in the song. And that is a song where if you don't hear the cues, then you're done. And so even for me, even though we use backing tracks, um, the parts that are most important are not on the backing tracks. So I had to be that cue each night, and because of the variations in sometimes how I could even hear everything each night, some parts could have been like a half a millibar like out, which could then confuse the arrangement and then thus making it a necessary discussion where we decided I think it was the second show in New York possibly to switch to Deep Down Trauma Hounds. Now, Deep Down Trauma Hounds was a song that we were getting, we had it designated for Encore, but yet we hadn't actually got to it in an Encore most of the time. When we did get to it in Encore, everybody seemed to like dig it, mind the pun there, but basically they, weren't getting it half the time. So when we put it back into the set, I also saw people sort of like giving the reaction of enthusiasm or like sort of giving a favorable response. So we should have a vote. I mean, I would personally love to see Love in Vain back in the set. And I think I have to possibly work on a solution as to how we can do that, because if I can get it back in, I really want to work with everybody on that. I know that we all, Justin, myself, everybody, all wanted like we were sad. We were sad. So hopefully we'll keep the fingers crossed for that. But again, Deep Down Trauma Hounds moving into the set was not what I call a bad thing. It rightfully started to represent Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate, which was pointed out that song and that album had been actually not represented in the set up to that point. So I will say that because we play Inquisition, that Last Rites is still being represented, and so I guess we can say that works with that. But so I think that with Love in Vain in the set went darker pretty soon in the set. Like I could see that it was going dark soon. So by the time we hit Human Disease, basically at that point, I almost saw that it was, to be honest with you, it was really going into the direction that I was really hoping we would go with Skinny Puppy for the set. Human Disease to me has at times been one of our most fun, heavy songs to play. It depends, on the night, I guess, and venue, the sound system, it can be explosive. And the sections, because I think each year we do it, each time, we haven't done it for years, but each time we have done it, it's always different every time. It's not the same. This time it was totally different again. And so I worked in a section where we went into F, which it never did before, and sections where it was going into other sections that we didn't do before. So I hope you notice these things live, because the fun for us is taking a bass song idea and then improvising each night on it to make it something new. So different than the album, different than, what you've heard before. And it definitely, by Human Disease, I was like, you could see some of the people in the audience, which maybe hadn't had much experience with Skinny Puppy, had that look on their face, like, I don't know. Whereas the real hardcore Skinny Puppy fans were like losing their shit. And that really inspired me, I have to say. And trust me, we notice you people that are losing your shit. Um, Half the discussion after would be like, hey, did you see the guy, blah, 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 or did you see the person up on the balcony that was blah, blah, blah? I mean, we notice you guys. And I think that it's important to point out that we also react to like the vibe that we're getting from you guys. We have played in our history to audiences that were completely not getting it, and those shows sometimes egg us on to be harder and to kind of like, oh yeah, take this, then take this. And I think that's fun to a certain degree, but when we get a reaction from you guys, that's when it really becomes the best. By the time we hit Hard Set Head, it's a song representing the process. I really, some people correct me all the time, say, by the way, that's process. I can't barely even say that, process. The process is the Canadian pronunciation that might just embedded into my head. So forgive me on that, but that's how it goes in the world. Hard Set Head was a gas to play live, and it's always kind of, again, one of those songs that by the time you get there, if you hadn't had a drink of water and you don't get a drink of water by the beginning of Hard Set Head, then you're going to be in a bit of trouble. It's kind of relentless. And it's also a song where, again, new parts added. I don't know if you guys notice what I call Dre affectionately referred to it as the raver sound. Loud, that sounds like wave gotic treffen times 100 with 100 grifties going like this. So that was the intention there. And it was kind of like, for me, kind of like trying to bring out that, the fact that when we have played in Europe and stuff like that, it's kind of like one of the songs that kind of like you can envision the dance. I always tease Matthew and say, Matthew, those dances you do in Germany on the video? And I think you guys know what I mean, with the guys with the long colored hair and the fully woolly, leg warmers and multicolored, but they do that dance. I think Hard Set Head is the anthem for that dance. And so I just had to throw in a few extra sounds to kind of like, I'll say, emphasize that. It was kind of like a bit of maybe a bit of tongue in tooth, but not really, because we all love to play Hard Set Head. It's a song that it's hard to play, but in the end, it's fun. And moving on to Mythmaker being represented by the song Pedifly. Again, Mythmaker was at a really weird time in Skinny Puppy's history. Reformation, and I believe we made Pedifly with Husky Huskolds he had worked a lot with Mike Patton on a lot of Mike's stuff. And it was completely outside the scope of a regular crew that we made that with. And I think it delightfully became a song that shows its differentials, so to speak. The dynamics of the sections make it really fun to play. And I know Justin chose this because it's heavy as shit, and I kind of forgot until we start to play it and learn it and get into it again, just how heavy that song actually is. It's kind of crazy. I guess you can say that if we haven't won you by that point, then we're not going to win you in the set. I realize that it's not about winning you, though. It's about presenting what we are and what we're about. And if you're on board, you're on board. And if you're not, hopefully by song number 10 in the set, Morpheus Laughing, easily my hardest song to play in the set. So by the time I get there, if I have any problems with anything in my set, such as On the floor below me, you probably can't see it, but there's a fan. But it's not just an ordinary fan. It's what we call, it's a mega fan. It's called a power cap. And it can blow more wind at you than like a hurricane. And strangely, it has the ability when I'm playing to move, to walk around. I don't even know how. It doesn't do it at home. It doesn't do it anywhere. It doesn't do it in rehearsal. But get live, all of a sudden it's ready to roll. So if by Morpheus laughing, if the fan has rolled out of the way, I typically am either suffering from some level of sweat fatigue, or I'm having trouble seeing because there's sweat in my eyes, or something, my hands are, I need a wiping. But between the end of Hearts That Had at the beginning of Morpheus laughing, there was like practically a millisecond time for me to think like, okay, grab a drink and here we go. So by the time we get into Morpheus laughing, I have had a situation where I'm trying to fix something at the same time as I'm playing, what I consider to be, the hardest song in the set. But again, Morpheus laughing was another song where if it was perfect, then Matthew would come backstage and shake me. Like with his fangs, he'd be going, I'd be like, oh yeah, what? Oh, Morpheus laughing. Oh my God. If you guys know Matthew, you know what sound I'm talking about. Pretty hilarious. But I'm gonna say that Morpheus laughing to me is my favorite song in the set to play, only because of the ability to flesh it out. Build it up, like build up the song into a larger dynamic. And there was points where some of the nights I did a thing on the Hydra, like sustain that note in one section in Morpheus that really is hidden in the song, and it would give me goosebumps. Was like kind of like one of those things. And I always think that Too Dark Park for me is like, any song, whether it was Tormentor or whether it was Morpheus laughing, when it comes along, it's like, okay, here we go. It's like, it's time to, I don't know. If Morpheus laughing didn't work out, it could be judged on the whole show for me of whether or not the show was like, I hate to say a good show or not a good show. It's not saying the shows were not good. It's just like, to yourself, if you don't play it up to what you feel you want to or need to, it can be disheartening. So I had challenges where, like the Moog, on some days you hear that it's there. Well, on some days it would drop to this, even lower. It would sound like this, all of a sudden out of nowhere. And so, of course, you'd have to just keep on hitting the program, get back there, but then it would be like back down to this sub-octave nightmare. And so the things that you would juggle, like that were going on at the same time, say that was happening, same time the fan has moved, you're sweating into your eyes, and then something about, say, something else. If three things start going wrong at the same time, you're just absolutely screwed. And it happened to me, the worst that it happened to me was in Houston, because, we were just getting rolling. And so I think Houston was second show. The drink. And once, we got into that was where I reached the pinnacle of like, oh, that can go wrong, or that can go wrong, or that can go wrong. And I'm reaching we're learning live. So I think I went through this on a previous chat, but Dre threw me a towel. I used it. I dropped the towel and it pulled out my in-ears. That's like my monitors to hear everything. So it was like a total disaster. If you guys noticed that in Houston, then that's what was going on. If you didn't notice it, then great. So by the time we hit the choke is like a song that, I don't know if you guys know this, but it is so different live than the song that we play on the album. basically all the parts that I play are not contained on the album version. And the same with Matthew, and essentially the same with all of us. We're playing, building up a song that, the original components were written like in 1985 on drum machines and stuff like that. So we're still utilizing that, but we're playing on top all of our parts. So a song like The Choke becomes this new song that I look forward to relearning it each time, because I play it again differently each time, a little bit, though similar. And even the components of how it breaks down in the end become, in this sense, the dramatic foreplay area where we know something theatrical is going to happen. And this becomes the area where we can improvise, and it becomes something new and different each night, depending on how the stage activity unfolds. As the story became consistent, which it did rather quickly, we were able to kind of score that segment within The Choke at the end, and it was a blast being able to approach, this whole sort of concept of the choke is not the choke. The choke is the choke with a performance before. Priscilla, why are you retracting your messages? Jessica's impression of Hearthstone White is very realistic. I think that's a great, if you're talking about Hearthstone White there, Jessica, I think that's a great impersonation. I think is a sound, is personified by that perfect BRRRPT. So I will go with that. But essentially, I'm going to get into discussion here, songs which you guys think should go in, and such as that. But let's just finish the discussion on the set. Warlock. By the time we get to Warlock, we're crescendoing out of the drama. So it creates this unique opportunity to build it up to a sort of anthem-esque type state, and it always is. And I will say that, this time, each time, as I said, we approach the songs, I think that we learn them better and better and better. And the Warlock, I don't think that we've ever learned Warlock as well as we have on this tour. So if you noticed it, thank you. If you didn't, then I guess it doesn't matter. But for us, there was a new level of achievement by, I will thank that there was, I believe it was one Patreon guy here, which posted a video about the actual part that he had dictated from one of the previous chats, the Rabies chat, where I was able to show the MIDI file for the actual string line. It was then dictated to sheet music form, and from there I was able to actually say, I made a mistake on that and that, and then thus I was able to repair even something that I had been playing wrong in my whole history of playing Warlock. So to me, it reached a new level. And always, for me, one of my favorite songs to play, again, in the set. Second most difficult after Morpheus Laughing, easily. It could be the most difficult, though, in the sense, Warlock we have played every tour, so it's stored in my memory. Morpheus Laughing is not, so it could be that it is harder than Morpheus Laughing. By the time we hit Inquisition, I feel sorry for Justin, I will say. It's probably the most brutal song to drum to in the set, and features a lot of sort of like, if you're tired at this point, then just forget about it. And it's always fun to play the string lines and everything for me and this like that. I love to build them up, build up the bass, build up the the melodic structures of it is always like my goal in that. And of course, Last Rites, probably one of the most playable songs other than Love in Vain off Last Rites. Dig It really surprised me this time, because we hadn't played it for some time. I think that most of us had considered it something that, you know, we played it enough. We played it too many times. So by the time we actually came around to playing it this time, again, I was compelled to make new parts. And I don't know if you guys picked up on the funk out section, I call it, but that just sort of reinvigorated the song for me. And also working with the drops on Dig It, I could emphasize the sort of like the 808 hits in the song with the syncussion and get them to go down to some unearthly low levels. And this on a big sound system, it just makes the room shake. So that was quite fun. And the middle section with the what you might kind of call it the blood confetti blow, totally worked with the matching of the Gregorian section. I'll call it the Gregorian middle section. Was a blast to play and end on. Believe it or not, we used to put our tour manager Lauren. We used to drive her crazy because we would never decide what songs we were going to play for the encore until just before we go out. And she did not like that. She always wanted to know way ahead of time, you know, what songs you're going to do and how long are they going to be and blah, blah, blah. And we'd always be like, okay, we're going to do, you know, we had a choice between Maggot, Assimilate, Smothered Hope, Texture, God's Gift, Maggot, Assimilate, originally Deep Down Trauma Hounds, and Candle. And inevitably, and this always typically happens, is we will go for, you know, if we don't do Assimilate, I kind of feel like you guys will chop our heads off. So it's kind of like one of those songs. It kind of feels like you can see the look on everybody's face when it comes along where they're like, okay, I finally got the song I was waiting for. It's like, okay, if that's what it took, you know, that's great. I know that one of Ogre's favorite songs to do in the encore is Candle. And it's the same with me, really, as well. I didn't think we were going to get to Candle. I thought we would stick with, say, Maggot, Assimilate, Smothered Hope, Texture. But it seemed always that he wanted to do Candle, and I loved that. I was like, Candle all the way. But, you know, when we took Deep Down Trauma Hounds out of the encore, it was kind of, it kind of made it, I don't know, I did like saving that one for the encore, but I will say that, you know, Assimilate's kind of like a staple that it's fun to play. Everyone in the band enjoys it. I will say that we seemingly tried, I don't know if we try to avoid Smothered Hope and Texture, but every time I said Smothered Hope or Texture, it always got changed to either Maggot, Assimilate, Candle, or something to that effect. We're sorry about the no encore. Houston, what do you mean? We didn't do an encore? We had to have done an encore in Houston. The only night that we didn't do an encore, I'm pretty sure, was the night that Ogre had his 4 teeth pulled out. And we went down to one song a couple of nights when he was really, really sick. And so I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm almost certain in Houston we did. The longest encore we did was in St. Petersburg, Florida, where we did all of the songs, believe it or not. And the reason we did that was because we had canceled the show in Fort Lauderdale, and we felt that anybody that had traveled up or down to see the show probably deserved to see some extra songs for that. So cheers to you people in Florida. I will say, my 3 favorite shows of the tour And these are judged from audience reaction, sound for me on stage, and performance of making it through the set. And with everybody on board in the band also. So my favorite show goes to Montreal. My second favorite show is Denver. And my third favorite show is St. Petersburg, Florida. And that doesn't mean that you people in the audience, that just means for how well I think the actual show went over as far as technically how we were able to perform. I did enjoy every show. And there were some shows like, for instance, I don't know if you guys saw this amazing poster from the Fillmore in Maryland. Oh my God. If you didn't get one, we'll try and see if we can license that to get them in our shop. We'll see. Keep you guys posted on that. But as far as songs to do, I've been reading your guys' list. You know, it's safe to say that there's a lot of requests for Shoreline Poison. If I'm not mistaken, that is also something that I would like to see. And I think I'd like to suggest Shoreline Poison to the bandmates and see what they say. I do not have an active conversation going, but we will see. Danny would love to have seen Tin Omen, Grave Wisdom. Tin Omen, we have done every tour, and I almost felt like, you know, we've done it too much again. That is a great live song for us, and we could see its return. Grave Wisdom, only ever done it once at Doomsday. Personally, I would like to see it. I could suggest it. Soul That Creates, it's too old, like in the sense that it's not really a performable song in that sense. Lots of people like to see Scrapyard, and I would like to see it too, but I think it's the edits and cuts that make that song. I think the live version of it we have tried, as is songs like Nowhere, and they don't come across as good as the produced versions. So for me, it is a little bit more challenging. Amnesia we have done, Solvent we've done. I like doing them both. Rihanna likes to bring up Pastern as a song that she loved live. One of her favorite songs, she said live. Will, amazing set. Hearing Human Disease. Man, why do I always get so fucking choked up every time I do these chats? I can talk most of the time normally. Human Disease. Live and unexpected and awesome. If I had a question, it would be what determines the choices made regarding song cycling and encore length, i.e. playing Love in Vain earlier and then retiring it. Well, as you heard, we had to pull Love in Vain out for that technical reason. And hi there, Rihanna. Have to perform.
It's an interesting setup.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup here today in the live room, isn't it? She's looking at me going, wow, you got it all set up weird. You want to come in and say hello, or you finished cleaning? Thanks, Will. I hope I answered your question in the discussion here. Cora would love to see Chainsaw. Oh man, I think we did that way back in the 80s. And the problem with that song is if you're on tour, it's not the song you look forward to playing in the set. So there are a number of songs that I will sort of like label them as that. By the way, great poster Simon is right. Simon, you know, over the whole course of the whole tour, Simon has been killing the poster stuff. Wouldn't you say, Rihanna?
Yeah, but you need to drink some water.
I am. I got it right there. She's like, you need to drink some water. Not only do I have my water, I have my special water. Simon, your posters that you've been doing over the course of this tour have been fabulous. Been absolutely inspired by them all. That one of Tiger is just so classic. And it made me inspired to do the chats while on the road, we would find a suitable place to do them. In this case, at Soraya's house, chat before at Mike Condo's house from Pigface, some chat before that somewhere in Montreal that was at the hotel, somewhere in Pittsburgh. Again, luckily, the hotel facilitated. And we did enough, huh? Somewhere in Florida. That was, I believe, on our day off in Fort Lauderdale. And then the preacher or chitter chatter was an enormous amount of classic poster work by Simon Paul. Simon, thank you for always coming through with all the classic stuff you do. I mean, I don't know how to say it any better than you kill it all the time. And you know, the tour made it special for us to be able to continue on the tour, knowing that we had this classic team of guys always contributing such classic stuff. Yes, please. From the crew, the fantastic crew, and everybody that contributed to, for instance, even the costumes, the things we wore on stage, everybody. I want to thank Susan the Goth, that's what I call her, for making my custom outfit, you call it. It's the Subcon jumpsuit, I'll call it. It really looks the best once you've got it on with the sub pack and the in-ears. Then I look like the Orkin man. You know, as again, the setup and the pleasure of working with Zombie Dre as my tech on this. Dre did a great job. Matthew, you did a great job on learning all the parts, and especially after we reached a certain point and then I came and zeroed in with you, you really nailed it. Justin, you of course nailed it again, as usual. And I really have to say, I'm really so sorry to hear about Thrill Kill Cult's current status. And big up to Frankie, still in the hospital with an infected hand that spread up his arm, thus disabling them to do, I think, upwards of 10 shows now. They were hoping to do the last show here in LA on June the 2nd, and I hope they will. There's been still no word whether or not that is going to be possible, or the word in San Diego. But we will hope. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. I just hit the seeds in the lemon. Woo, that was tart. I loved Justin's performance. Ogre was great each night, how he was bowing down to each of us, and it's a classic feeling. The lighting, the mistress of visualists. I came up with that nickname for Caitlin early in the tour, and she liked it, loved it, as she said. So it continued on. The mistress of visualists, doing some classic lights. Really loved how it looked and felt. The front of house, Aaron Lissy, classic. Of course, our tour manager, Lauren, everybody killing it. The setup lasted, didn't break down, didn't have any long lasting issues, and made it should remain possible to use it again. That's the good thing. Look at Matthew here. I thought this picture looked incredibly bizarre because it looks like his face is upside down. If you look at those lines, it looks like his mouth, his nose are face the other way. I was just like, wow, did he really look that way from the stage? Pretty cool. Did he really look that way from the stage? What a hippie. And once again, just a final sort of like look, the syndromes there, the classic booming world of syncussion and whatnot. But once again, what we're going to do is go through the list that you guys have left the suggestions, and we are going to make a sort of like mental list. I think Shoreline Poison is a very good chance, guys. I'm gonna say it has the most chance so far. Joe, thanks, Joe. Joey and Joe. Thank you, Joey and Joe. I've always wanted to hear Left Hand Shake. Well, we did do that on the Last Rites tour. It made it more, more of a reason to do it. Without Dwayne, really, it is pointless for me to do, because it was really a signature performance of Dwayne and myself live that made that song kind of work. So unless I switch instruments back to drums, then that's not going to happen for sure. Another Joe. God. Joey, Joe, and Joe. It's all separate Joes. Joe Winnell, Joey Galvin, and Joey Gonzalez, aka Joe Virus. Wrote and sounded so crisp and killer to hear in the set. Can't wait to hear how you broke it all down to perform live. Well, I'm saying that most of that song was based on being able to kind of like emphasize for me, which was the, and then most of that song is one giant bass line. So the whole sort of, when the song comes in, it's pretty much it's a hand played bass line throughout the song. It makes it fun. It's, makes it like live, and then I'm supplementing it with the yeah. So you get it, and you put that all together with the rest of us, and it can be a hell of a lot of fun. Thanks, Joe. Hope to see you soon. Christian Day. Last week, I was jamming some of the full-length live bootlegs that are on YouTube from Last Rites and Vivisect. Was working in the yard with my beats on and some nice weed smoke. Was totally immersed. Have you ever thought of releasing the Skinny Puppy or download version of Throbbing Gristles? No. Okay. Live song wish list. Okay, here we go. Death. Did Death on the last 2 tours and very much enjoyed that. Mortar, never been done live. Last Call. We have done that song live before many times. It is possible to do it. I haven't actually approached it to see how it might sound with a revamp. Mirasaw, that's a song really, really impossible again to do without Dwayne. That's a heavily Dwayne song. Second Tooth is very disjointed. We did play it live, I believe, on one of the tours. I can't remember which one it was. Very disjointed. It's so broken up that it makes it very difficult to kind of like hold it together if something goes wrong. Bark, another song never performed live before. I love that song. I have suggested it. It's not one of our most popular songs. It would be interesting for me to throw that on a list. I can say that out of your list there, I would say, Death, because we've done it. Bark would be interesting to throw in down there. Johnny, Setlist was killer. Would love to hear One Time, One Place. Hey, I'm going to say that there is a very good suggestion. I did actually suggest that to Rihanna the other day, and I played it for her. Did you give it thumbs up or thumbs down on that idea?
What?
One Time, One Place. I had to play it for her because she didn't even remember what song that was off Mine TPI.
What was your question?
I was saying, what did you think of One Time, One Place?
I liked it.
Oh, she liked it. I thought she gonged it. So I would say One Time, One Place would be an interesting thing to try. Thank you for Morpheus laughing. You nailed it in Seattle. Thank you. Addiction. Well, we've done Addiction many, many, many times. It's an odd song to do. It goes on and on and on. I think that's the problem, is that
That's the one I suggested.
yeah, a lot of people suggest Addiction. It's another song. Cage, it's an old song in the sense that I hand played the bass line and I hand played the drum. So in case I would have to become ambidextrous or have grow more arms to do that right, because I think that song has a certain sound from those components. Death Again, okay. Daddy You Warbash, never been done. There's certain songs like Daddy You Warbash and Gonja that I would love to do, and they just don't work live because of the pitched up voices and so on. Amnesia, a great song live. We have put that on the list, put it that way. Thanks for your suggestions. John, suggestion, Rash Reflection and Paragon. Well, what? Pastern, yeah. I did say that you love Pastern. Rash Reflection is, funny enough, a song that Justin came to me and said, I would really like to do that one. So it's an odd song. It's not the first song you would think on the list, but depending on how many people like it, let me know. Because if Justin suggests it, I have a tendency to want to try it. Sharon, oh, hold on, John. I skipped a part of your question. Beginner's question. Do you have any want ability to perform Skinny Puppy songs completely with hardware? Well, we do it as best as we can because the hardware is way too finicky to travel. There's just no way that you could program the drum machine and the Pro One and those sequences to run reliably and sound like the song every night. It's just not going to happen. So that's why we have to use prepared backing tracks with those components on it. Sharon, great topic. I was actually wondering during this tour how the set list was selected. Well, we do have to go through the idea of thinking about every song, like Antagonism. We've done Antagonism before, and again, it's a difficult song. It doesn't progress much. So the problem is it's kind of like stays on one level, kind of like not too many peaks and valleys. Chainsaw, same scenario. So, okay, but not as exciting as other songs. Jade, hey, love the band. Had a decided set list and can do encores, but in theory, can you, for whatever cues the backing tracks, pull up any song in Skinny Puppy's catalog? No, we have to prepare them. I have to prepare them ahead of time and have them prepped in the setup here so that they can be played. Previously in our history, we have always used a computer that is basically running a session that will run, say, the Pro One sequence, the drum machines, some of the effects, some of the parts, and those necessary components. Then we realized that the computer was not really the safest way to go. So we have been working with a company called the Cymatic, and basically been utilizing the Cymatics to run those tracks. The only bad thing about the Cymatics is they do not support. They do support MIDI, but not in a normal way. So if you want to utilize MIDI, it's incredibly challenging. If anybody really wants to know the story about how MIDI gets utilized in a Cymatic, you can send me a DM. Because it's incredibly boring. Been working on a cover of Far Too Frail, and we say is really breaking down a song and listening closely. The individual components gives you appreciation and how it all fits together. Yeah, they're all so separate. Say, for instance, when I remade Solvent, I'd remembered how I made the song. I remembered that, like, the structure of the sequence and how it was triggered by the TR-808. And so I attempted in my mind to recreate that exact scenario. And so the remake of it was made the exact same way, using the same equipment. So it was kind of fun to do that. But it's not easy. And like I said, if I had to do that live, to perform that song. There's just no way. There's just no way that you could, say like that would be possible. I mean, even back in the old days when we toured, we had to use, in some cases, a cassette tape with those sequences on it. First European tour in 1986. If you saw us, we were using a cassette tape for a large part of our backing tracks, and sometimes the cassette tape would drift off tuning because it would be running fast or slow. I would have to adjust my tuning live to what the cassette was running. It was just total nonsense. Thank you, Ronald. The Setlist had a great flow with how things went with Ogre's alien character. Yeah, I thought so. Dash, I could name a few substitutions, but to emphasize how much I'd want it, I'm only suggesting Pastern. Well, there you go, right, Rihanna. Dash is on board with Pastern. I've heard that Pastern has one of the most monstrous bass sounds live of any of our songs. Yeah. Question, if not already answered, what song did you think came across better on this tour than previous iterations? I'd say Rodent Morpheus Laughing was incredible. I'm just going to say Morpheus Laughing because if we can play it, hey, don't you try and jump up here. Tiger's looking like she's going to jump on me. Morpheus Laughing, I'm going to say. Droid Harmony, live track wishlist, Nature's Revenge. I love that song. I would really like to try that song as well. Love in Vain, there you go. One Time, One Place. You see, we're common grounding here. Glass Houses, well, Glass Houses is one of those songs like a encore song. It isn't easy to play for everybody. It's an unusual tempo. It's short. It ends quick. There's not a lot of dynamics. And a large part of the reason we don't do that is because, of course, there's a lot of other songs that we do get to before that. Of course, you're naming common songs like Addiction, First Aid, Texture. Jaya, we did do, believe it or not, on the last tour, 2017 as our intro song. I believe we did 2015 as well. And I loved it. Would like to see that return, actually. I suggested it, but it didn't go down. Scott, greeting from Cincinnati. Both times you played Human Disease. Well, nice. You stuck. When you were deciding on a set, did everyone in the band pick a favorite song? I think everyone had some essence to throw in, like what they would, if they didn't like a song, which one they wanted. But we all came together. Wishlist, Nature's Revenge, State Aid. That doesn't work live. We've tried. Nowhere doesn't work live. Amnesia does work. It is a good suggestion. Chainsaw. As I said, there's no dynamics. Look at me, I'm being heavily critical of Skinny Puppy here. Shadowcast, we've never done that one live. We don't have the components to do that one, which means we don't have the backing sequences to do that. We could recreate it. When any of this tour shows hit various peaks where the crowd is just going nuts, or you're completely on target and playing things 100% as rehearsed, or are there moments where things get fluid and you're just improvising? Absolutely. By halfway through the tour, we were all adding new stuff and extra parts, and then even up to the end, like I would just say it was kind of like, I hate to say it, but it was kind of like, I'll just fuck it. I'm going to try something here that I don't normally do. And just throw in some, like, as I would call it, Sun Ra type stuff. I think even in Vegas, I even like put my whole arm on the keyboard, just leaned on the keyboard. I just feel at some points like that, you got to have fun at the same time as throwing in some components of wildness like that. And it just makes it, when you know the set, by the time we end, we know it as well as we know it. We've got to make it more exciting. And so that is why And if you see the show at the beginning and you see the show at the end, you're going to see probably two different shows. Not too different, but in some cases, pretty radically different. If the set will change for the fall shows, well, as we're discussing that now. Didn't get a chance to see any of those dates, but really like the set list. If so, will some songs be kept? Votes for Rodent, Tormentor, Morpheus, Laughing, Choke, Warlock. I think those are probably pretty safe. I think everybody wants. I mean, it's funny when we did Tormentor, Morpheus, Laughing, or Love in Vain. I could hear a reaction some nights of like, oh wow, they're doing that. Like I know they don't normally do that. Funny, I could hear that. No bias here, but you made the new Skinny Puppy sound like the old days live. Ah, great. Thanks, Richard. That's because we need to play on top of the songs and make it live. Like this is what we've always done our whole career. Always have played on top of ourselves and always have made it live and a new version. And I think that's what's made the band somewhat more exciting. Not sure if my set list could top yours or any of the others. But One Time, One Place, okay, nice. Love in Vain, okay, we know about that. Would be the cherry on the top. Well, I'm gonna try out both of those songs. If they end up in the set, it'll be because we talked about it right here, right now. Hey, can you share the Hydrasynth presets? Ogre's vocal was the Eventide H9 pedal. Proco Rat. Yeah, saw that too. And the Boss HM2 distortion pedal. There you go. My Hydrasynth patches are they were modified presets, but because the Hydrasynth is so beautiful with the randomization, you go in and basically take one of the presets like one of my favorites is one of the first ones, Saw Oppressive. You can make so many great sounds out of that thing. It's beautiful. Saw Oppressive. Go look up that one and do some randomization on that, and you will love it. And Rocandro was a surprise and sounded good to hear live. Thank you. Back in the 24 tour, I was blown away when you guys played Glass Houses. Bill Morrison killed it on bass. Not too sure if he played actual bass on that. We're happy with your performance on Warlock. Yes. As I said, reached a new level of learning it, like the actual proper parts. I think I was playing some parts in E major, and it's in E minor, so that helped. Charlie Bailey, I love the set list you chose from Minneapolis. Most of the songs I would have chosen to have already suggested. So I'd like to add Last Call. Okay, can't wait. Second, gonna hit Chicago. Okay, Chicago should be off the hook. Eve, I know you said that, it didn't quite work right. And that's why it had been replaced. Okay, so you're talking about Love in Vain there. I missed Hearthstone White. Hearthstone White is a great song live. It's worked with us before. It's kind of a slow paced song, so that's why we skip it. But as I said, we've been talking this whole chat about how Love in Vain needs to make a revisit. Joan, hey Joan, was great to meet you on the VIP. Setlist was awesome. Thrilled when I heard Dig It. Great. Deep Down From Mounds. Other songs wish to hear would be Last Call. There's another one there, Far Too Frail. Spasmolytic. Spasmolytic is extremely tough to do. Nature's Revenge, Pastern, Solvent. All good suggestions. I'm going to deal with all of these titles that keep on coming up again. Going to basically run through them, see how they sound. So your comments are important. Matt, what we're using to trigger your VSTs? The VSynth. Yes, and the laptop is up there as shown behind me earlier in this chat. Basement. Oh yeah, well, of course, that's going back to the old days. Again, I probably have to have me on the drums. That's me drumming. See, I'm drumming on songs like Spasmolytic, on Basement, and on songs like Cage. So basically, if you want hear a song that kind of has that sound, so like just live drums, no drum machine, then it kind of would have to shift over, because I've tried Spasmolytic and it doesn't work as good as it could. Death and ambience. Well, death, of course, we've just discussed that. Thank you, Matt. Justin, Jason, Grave Wisdom. You know, that's a song, as I said, we've only done it once. It needs to come back and maybe we try it. James Earl, I could suggest a list of long list of songs, shortened to 3. Blue Surge. Always like doing that one, but again, that's a song that we need to make more dynamic if we're going to do it. Goes on one straight line. Amnesia, there it comes back. Daddy You Warbash. I love that song. It is probably one of my favorite Skinny Puppy songs of the new, since the reformation, is Daddy You Warbash. Most people would probably like to know that the vocal "Do You Want to Party With Me" is actually me. Yes, me sampled in the song. And also, I wrote that song with Zombie Dre, if you can believe that. Yes, he and I together. After the story of Hilt Stream from way back in February, I rediscovered the Hilt albums. Okay, please remake the shirt. Okay, let's go back to the story here. Brutus, LaFalter, you should play Sleeping Beast. You know, the problem with us not being able to do Sleeping Beast is the lack of the components. Again, we'll call it the sequences, the drum parts separated from the rest of the music, so that we could play it without the rest, without vocals, without all the other stuff on top, so that we can do that. But that's the song I've always wanted to do. I know we used to do it live, and I have no idea what happened to the backings for that, but they got lost. Hi, Connie. Connie came into the room. She says hi to everybody. It'd be great if you did a BRAP Sunday Live, if you hooked up electronics and Danny Carey on the drums. Yeah, saw Danny in Portland. It was great. Haven't seen him for a couple of years, I will say. Well, maybe not that long, but wow. But, it isn't the Skinny Puppy tour until Danny Carey appears. Dell, we'll let him to gold, but still be playing with you guys. What do you guys think? Should we have Big Josh and Paul back? Let's have thumbs up or thumbs down on that. I personally say thumbs up. I fucking loved touring with those guys and hearing Josh's bass every night made me feel regular each day. So yeah, I'd love to see them back. Fritter or Draining Faces? Well, we used to do Draining Faces live back in the 80s. It's available online if you want to see it. That was really good to do horror too. Thank you for your question, Dell. Exit, I saw Ogre saying that the spooning of brain yogurt with the large metal spoon broke 4 teeth and had to have them pulled out during the tour. Any update? I have not had an update, but I do know that he did have all 4 pulled. I shall give updates if I hear anything. Du jour. Hey, Kevin, I recently stepped into the electron world, acquired a Syntac, I'm kind of blown away. Do you ever use any of the gear? Yeah, it's a different subject altogether, but I use the mono machine. Still believe that is the main one that I like the best. And I've got the Digitact, the keyboard version. Tarantula Tin Oven was a staple in the Dome Room in Chicago. It was a staple in our live shows too. That could come back. Andrew, thanks for sharing those behind the scenes videos. Is that a CXM78? Yes, it is. You are absolutely on it. And as I said earlier, if you want to make reverb sounds that are just forever. Absolutely amazing reverb. It's expensive, but I think it's kind of worth it if you really want a nice reverb. It's beyond Strymon, if you ask me. And it was recommended to me by Randall Frazier from Legendary Pink Dots. And he knows his shit, that guy. So one thing is for sure is I know a lot of people have been really digging the microcosm lately. It's also a great reverb. Um, though I do not have much experience uh, with it myself, and I see that you guys have asked questions since the chat has begun, so I'll try to address that. Let's see. Do you plan on a different show? I do not know. That is something that, as I said, I don't even see the show until it happens, and he keeps that pretty secret. So I will not know. But it'd be interesting to see what will happen. Melanie, I really love the Setlist in St. Petersburg. Side note, you all started playing Smothered Hope while I was talking to Paul Barker at his merch table, and he paused for a second, smiled. Smothered Hope. Paul's such a great guy. We got along so well. Adam, question: I really should acquire the Hydrasynth desktop. Really enjoying the wave scanning capabilities as well as macros and mod matrix. Love seeing and exploring your setup. Can you share more about its role in your live shows? Dude, it's like if ever I needed a sound to jump out and have a completely different sound, say, than my regular strings, kind of have this. But when I'd hit this one, it would be like. Sort of like, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's bigger and it's more spacious, and it could give, like, as Dre would say, the orchestral maneuvers or ultravoxy type of sound to the sound in, for instance, Wernin. Candle was also a great example of how the Hydrasynth got used. Jason, which venue had the best subs? That's a good question. There was a couple of shows where Dre always goes out and then he'll come out and say, "Oh man, it's just earth shaking tonight." So perhaps Dre can answer that question the best on the side here. Dre, if you don't mind. Nick Nimick, nothing I wouldn't give to hear Quiet Solitude. Oh man, I don't think we ever played that one live except for at our very first show. Spasmolytic, well, I'd have to walk out of the keyboards and go to the drums. Maybe Justin can do keyboards on that. Scrapyard, it is a badass song, but without those sonic collisions with the radio and shit, it's not the same. Viruses, we hadn't reapproached that one. Perhaps I should take a second look at that. How, John? I'm fine with anything. I have every year you play. But if I had to pick some fun ones for me, my list would be Incision. Wow, that's one of the old ones. Again, I can't do that. Who's Laughing Now? That's a song we've never done, and believe it or not, sadly, we do not have the components to do that. That's a song that I would like to try. It's just that it's very Dwayne, and without the master here, we couldn't pull off that sequence, I don't think. Cult, yeah, that's a song we've never done live. It's not the first one on my list. I've got a few more favorites off the process. Download, well, we did play Download on the Eyes of Stanley Payne tour, and that was a blast, I will say, to improvise around the concepts of Download and with the other members. I mean, there were some nights where it was just like, we had no idea what was going to transpire that night. But yeah, some really cool things as far as coming home and getting back into things. Of course, Rihanna and I had the opportunity to actually go to a festival ourselves the other day, the Cruel World Festival, where we got to see Susie. And I must say that it wasn't as easy to see Susie as we expected, as we went the first day, and the festival got shut down by one lightning flash that showed up in the distance, and they told Susie, you can't play till next year. And so she said, well, fuck that. So we all were invited back the next night. I think 21,000 people came back and witnessed Susie. And I will say, if you're a fan of Susie and the Banshees, though what didn't have the Banshees, it was still a great show to witness Susie. First show in 15 years was pretty awesome. Some people were taking pictures of us like from far away and saying, hey, I saw Kevin and Rihanna. So if you saw us, this is what we possibly looked like. And yes, we had a blast there. Saw like a lot of the old friends and people like that. It was fun, though. You know, every time I go to a festival, I don't know about you, but like I just get, it drives me crazy. I don't know if it's the best way to see a band. I'd rather see a band in a venue over a festival any day. By the way, I thought this was hilarious. Whoever posted this, you have my hilarity. I saw it and I thought like, okay, that's funny. And somebody was improvising with AI with the World of Hilt, Journey to the Center of the Bowl. I thought that was pretty unusual. Thank you for sending me that. Pretty unusual. I think that we're getting close to the Journey to the Center of the Bowl chat, the making of the live chat. And I believe that could be coming up almost next in line. What do you think? I don't know. But in the meantime, Rihanna's made me a nice lunch. I'm all set up here. I've got Andy Warhol back up above. And by the way, big up to Mr. Frank Kozig. He was the maker of the figure. It's a soft vinyl figure, believe it or not. And he passed away while we were on tour. I do believe that it is still available online, and it is not that expensive for the size of piece it is. It's iridescent as well. Thank you to the lovely person that gave me this pink Hydra on the road. I've been enjoying it very much. I must also say thank you to the people of Subpack who supplied me with my Subpack originally, and I've been using it ever since faithfully. If you want to try one out, I suggest you do it if you play live and you're not getting enough balls from behind you. It definitely does the trick. So, Scully, I think you would have liked that. It's definitely, something that helps people to turn down. Let's see here. Thrill Kill Cult, let's hope that they can play their shows on June the 2nd and 3rd here. If so, maybe we'll see you guys there. Like to thank you all, you guys, for dropping in today. Scully, love you, my brother. Will Jones, I hate festivals too. The new tour, as I've said this, I'm pretty sure it's going to be in November. So basically, save your time schedules open for the fall. And thank you all. Oh, so yeah. Wow, Dre said Toronto had the most sub. Well, that's good because that sound system there was designed by Drake. And by the way, yes, some things to look forward to. We'll be coming up with a chat about the making of Back and Forth Volume 9, which is something that I have been working on. I guess I was going to mention that on this chat here too. I have put the album has now been mastered by Mr. Greg Reilly, and it has now been sent to manufacturing. And the cover, another wondrous cover by the legendary Simon Paul, and this is our intention, looking pretty sick. So Back and Forth, I'm sorry, Brap and Forth Volume 9, do not mistake it for that. It is Brap with a large R, which means rock. Rock, it rocks. So Brap and Forth Volume 9, that's the next thing on the list. And then Cyberactive, also being mixed currently by Mr. Greg Reilly up in Osoyoos, British Columbia, Canada. I heard from Mr. Bill Lieb. He is playing the final show at the Wave Gothic Treffen right now as we speak. Actually, they probably finished about 2 hours ago. So he will be returning back to Canada, and we shall be finishing the final mixes of Cyberactive. I believe both of those albums will be coming out this fall on Artifact. Stay tuned. And as I said before, I think one of the next chats coming up will probably be Hilt. Probably do an Orange Pony Call the Ambulance, or not call the Orange Pony Journey to the Center of the Bowl chat all in one. But as I said before, thank you to Nick, Jason Brown, Brian Smith, and all the rest of you guys, Jessica, for supporting on Patreon and being here each week to see these chats. Once again, over and out from Subcon Central.